Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to Jim's 5 a.m. club. And this morning, on this sombre day, I come to you from Martin Place and from the cenotaph, this beautiful cenotaph here in the middle of Martin Place. And I'm here to remember a very important historical day, an important day in Greece's modern history, and it's Ochi Day. Ochi Day, which occurred on the 28th of October 1940. And it's the day that the mighty Greeks said no. No to Mussolini, no to Hitler, and no to the Nazi Hitler forces. It was a day where Greece, the mouse, stood up and roared. It was a day where Greece said no to Nazism, no to fascism, and no to totalitarianism. A day which shaped Greece and put the world on notice that anything is possible. It occurred during a time where Hitler and Mussolini had been steamrolling through Europe, and everybody was just surrendering with a whimper of a fight. And Mussolini thought that by putting an ultimatum to Greece, by putting an ultimatum to the Prime Minister of Greece, Greece would simply roll over and allow him and his forces to come through Greece, for Greece to surrender, and for Mussolini to pass through Greece with his forces and go on to do a pincer movement with Hitler to take on, and no doubt they would have probably defeated Russia back in those days. But Greece, to its credit, the unprepared, the under-resourced Greeks, the stubborn Greeks, the Greeks who have always been on the right side and who have defended the values of democracy, freedoms, and the rule of law, said no, which commenced World War II for Greece as Mussolini declared war immediately on Greece, and the forces, the Italian forces, the crack Italian forces, started streaming into Greece from Albania. World War II was a terrible time in many countries, but let's have a look at some statistics. During World War II, with the war and the ensuing occupation of Greece by Italian, Bulgarian, and Nazi forces, the famine, the disease, and the destruction of the economy was something that shaped Greece during its modern era. It could have said yes. The Greeks could have said yes to Mussolini, and the economy may not have been impacted as much. There may not have been as many deaths, or famine, or disease, or all the other things. But then again, the world would have been a different place, and most probably a worse place. During World War II, Greece lost 11% of its population. It lost more people during World War II than what most other countries who engaged in World War II lost. It lost 80% of its Jewish population as well. So the effects of World War II on Greece were damaging to an awesome degree. And as we said before, there was not only the war, but there was also the ensuing occupation by German and Italian forces, and a famine which caused a lot of hunger and starvation and disease. And then the destabilization of Greece through the war also caused the civil war, where Greeks fought Greeks at the end of World War II, which caused another huge amount of deaths amongst the Greeks, poverty, devastation, and pain, and shaped modern Greece. But let me tell you a little bit more about the story of Greece, because there is a positive side, there is a beautiful side to the war, because World War II in Greece also coincided with Greece being supported by the Anzacs, the second Anzacs. We had the first Anzacs, who were commissioned during World War I, who passed through Lemnos, the island of Lemnos, and went on to fight at Gallipoli, which was 100 miles away. So Lemnos was very, very close to Gallipoli and acted as the staging grounds for World War I. So the Anzacs and the Greeks had a relationship from World War I. And the Greeks and Australians have been fighting in many wars together. The Greeks and Australians fought in the Boer War in South Africa in 1899 to 1902. Many people are not aware of that. The Greeks and Australians and Anzacs have been allies in many wars and have been defending democracy. The Greeks and Anzacs have fought in World War I together, World War II together, in Korea, in Vietnam, and over 2,500 Greek Australians have participated in those wars. And in April 1941, a lot of people are not aware that the second Anzacs were commissioned, and many of those second Anzacs were Anzacs who fought in World War I. The young boys who went to fight in Gallipoli came together again to fight in World War II with their sons and with other members of their families. And they fought in Greece. They fought in Greece, and they fought in the Battle of Greece and the Battle of Crete. It's important to understand that 34,000 Anzacs fought in Greece and fought side by side, brother in arms with Greek soldiers. They fought in the Battle of Velvi, the Battle of Tempe, the Battle of Thermopylae and Brathos, and also the Battle of Crete. There are 1,686 Anzacs who died fighting in Greece, and almost half of those bodies have never been recovered. 2,500 Greek Australians have fought in World War I, World War II, in the war in Korea and the war in Vietnam. So Greeks and Anzacs have been involved in the right side of battle for many, many years. And what else can I say? That we've been allies in all wars and defending democracy. 70 Greek Australians fought in World War I. So thank you very much for joining me on this special day, this special edition of Jim's 5am Club. And as you can see, there are some floral tributes here that have been placed at the cenotaph to commemorate Ohi Day, the day where the Greeks stood up and roared when they took on Mussolini in that Greco-Italian battle where they were fighting in Albania, and forced the Italians, the crack Italian forces, they forced them back through Albania, and they inflicted the first victory against the Axis forces and gave the world some hope. The news echoed all over the world and people were celebrating. It was front page news saying that the Greeks inflicted a defeat on the Axis forces, and it gave time. It gave valuable time. The Greeks resisted for over 210 days, which gave time for the Allies, for the forces to come together, for the Russians to prepare and to dig in, and it was a turning point in World War II. It changed the tide, and it helped change history. If the Greeks had not said no on Ohi Day, the world today could most probably be a different place. So for everybody, Ohi Day is an important day because it's a day which trumpeted the fight against Nazism, the push against totalitarianism, and the fight against those who were bullies. So take some time to think about it, take some time to read up about it, and take some time to understand how World War II transpired, and how the Greeks, the mighty Greeks, the under-resourced Greeks, the spirited Greeks were able to do something which impacted and gave the world some hope. On the 28th of October 1940, the bells tolled throughout Greece, bringing together the young men to fight, to defend their country. And one of those men was my grandfather, Petros Kalpaxis, who left his family, left his village 2 days after the birth of my auntie, Frida, not knowing whether or not he would return, not knowing if he and all the other soldiers who went to defend their country would come back. He was injured in war, in mortar fire, shrapnel hit his finger, hit his side, and he was wounded. He was a gunner fighting in Grama in Albania, and he suffered post-traumatic stress syndrome even after the war. We asked him to talk to us, to tell us about his experiences, and all he would do would be break down and cry. And he was a tough man. He wasn't a soft cock, he wasn't a wimp, he was a tough man. But when it came to war, he just couldn't talk about it. It had such an impact on him. And he talked about the cold, he talked about the dark nights, the hunger, and walking through snow which was waist deep, and losing one of his friends who was injured and they just couldn't save him, and just that sense of helplessness, not being able to do anything about it, which shaped him, and it would have shaped thousands, hundreds of thousands of Greek soldiers who had similar sort of experiences but did their duty. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me on Jim's 5am Club on this special edition today. And lest we forget the ugliness of war, but to also always remember those who gave up everything to serve their country, and those who fought side by side with the Anzacs in the Battle of Greece and the Battle of Crete, and for those who died, for the Anzacs who died fighting alongside their comrades, the mighty Greeks. Thank you, and we'll never forget you. Bye from Jim's 5am Club, and until we chat again, Yassas.